Good morning. It is time for our math lesson for Monday, April 20th. We are going to be working on the decimals and fractions lesson that begins on page 657. So you're going to want to get the math book out, turn to page 657 so that you can work on the lesson with me. So on Friday, we worked on the models that we can use for decimals and fractions. And today we're going to be focusing on how we can show that decimals and fractions are equivalent, that even though we write them in different ways, that they actually represent the same amount. Okay, so I'm going to take us over to our bookwork. So decimals and fractions. Decimals and fractions can show equivalent amounts. You can write equivalent fractions, and you can also write fractions as decimals. All right, so Math in My World, example 1. Carol travels 7/10 of a mile from her bus stop to the next stop. Write 7/10 as a fraction with a denominator of 100. Then write the fraction as a decimal. So first, we're going to use a model to show 7/10. Okay, so if we write 7/10 as a fraction with a denominator of 100, what we can do is first just shade in 7/10 here in this model. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. Okay. Now on the hundredths grid, we're going to shade the squares so that the same fraction of the two grids is shaded. So if I were to shade the same amount on the hundredths grid, I'm going to shade, this is 10 hundredths, right? And that's the same amount there. This is 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. Because for each 10, there are 10 hundredths. So if I count by 10, I've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 hundredths. So how many squares did you shade on the hundredths grid? You shaded 70. So the decimal models show that 7/10 is equivalent to 70 hundredths. So now what we're going to do is we're going to write the fraction as a decimal. So we can think of 7/10 as the word 7/10. And remember that 7/10 is equal to 0.7. 7/10 is a decimal. So 7/10 can be written as 7/10, as 70 hundredths, and also as 7/10 as a decimal. Okay. Go ahead and turn to example 2. Example 2 says, write 9/10 as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. So first, and as a decimal, sorry. So use a model to show 9/10. So first I'm going to shade 9/10. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so we have 9/10. Now on the hundredths grid, we're also going to shade the same fraction. So here, if I shade the 10th, that's 10 hundredths. Here's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90. Okay, so how many squares did you shade on the hundredths grid? I shaded 90. So this shows that 9/10 is equivalent to 90 hundredths because for each tenth, there are 10 hundredths. So we can think of 9/10 as 9/10 in words. So 9/10 equals 0.9 or 9/10 as a decimal. So we can write 9/10 as 90 hundredths and as 9/10 as a decimal. So I want you to notice also that 90 hundredths is the same as 9/10. Okay, so if we had a 0 in the hundredths place, that's actually equivalent to that 9/10. It's the same amount. Okay, so let's take a look here at the guided practice problems. It says write each fraction as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100 and write the fraction as a decimal. So we have 1/10. Now, if I were to do that on a hundredths chart, if I were going to shade in one whole column in a hundredths chart, that would be 10 hundredths out of 100. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm multiplying my numerator times 10 because there are 10 times 10 to equal 100, right? So 10 hundredths. And then as a decimal, there's 0 wholes, and then there is 1/10, so 0.1. It could also be 0.10 for the 10 hundredths. Okay, those are all equivalent, but you don't have to write both. You only need to write one. Okay, all right, 5/10. So as a fraction with 100 as the denominator, I would have 10 times as many, because I would count 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So there's 50 hundredths. And as a decimal, there's 0 ones, 5 tenths, or I could write it as 0 and 5 tenths and 0 hundredths. Okay? All right. I'm going to show you how to do number 3 and then 6 are connected problems, and then I will leave you to do 4, 5, 7, and 8. So 1/10, the directions say, write each fraction as an equivalent fraction with the denominator of 100. Shade the grid to show that the fractions are equivalent. Okay, so if I shade 1/10, right, and then I shade one column in the hundredths grid, then I just shaded in 10 hundredths because there are 10 hundredths in the one column. Okay, you're going to do the same thing for 4 and 5. You're going to shade the models to show the equivalent fraction with 100 as the denominator. And then write the fraction in exercise 3 as a decimal for number 6. So this is exercise 3. So I have to write it as a decimal. So I have 0 wholes and I have 1/10. Okay. I could also represent that as 0 wholes, 1/10, and 0 hundredths, which are also equivalent. Okay. So you are going to, number 7 is asking you to write number 4 as a decimal, and number 8 is asking you to write number 5 as a decimal. Okay. All right, I'm going to show you how to do number 9, and then you are on your own. So it says circle the equivalent ways to represent each number. So here I have 6/10, and then in words 6/10, 6 hundredths, 6 hundredths, 6/10, and 6 hundredths. So I want to represent this number. So 6/10. Well, that would also be in words 6/10, but that's not the same as 6 hundredths, because if I had 6/10, I would be shading 6 columns in a model, right? If I were to shade 600ths, I would only shade 6 of these little squares. So that is not equivalent. Same thing with this 600ths, that would only be 6 little squares, not 6 columns. And then this is 6/10 because I would be shading 6 of the whole columns. And then this is actually 600ths. So these represent a different amount. Okay, so I should only circle 6/10, 6/10, and 6/10. Okay, so you're going to look at these ways, these numbers, and you're going to circle the ones that are equivalent to 30/100ths. You're going to circle all the ways to make 2/10. And you're going to circle all the ways to make 7/10 for number 12. Okay, then you'll turn the page and you'll do the word problems on page 660. All right. So I hope you have a great day. Remember, you can always bring questions for the math lessons into our Zoom meetings. Have a great day.